presented by Private Internet Access.
Welcome back to We're All Satoshi. I'm Rick Falkvinge. I'm sitting here with Jörg von Minckwitz, who's co-founder and CEO of Bitwala here in lovely Kreuzberg, Berlin, where a lot of financial tech companies and Bitcoin companies and liberty enthusiasts and activists overall are converging right now. You said in a Business Insider interview earlier this year that Bitcoin is the biggest innovation since the internet. Why is it not bigger than the internet?
Because without the internet, Bitcoin wouldn't be possible. So we need an internet to connect all these miners together. Without that, Bitcoin wouldn't be there. So I think Bitcoin, the internet, because information is everything. In my world, with information, you can earn money and you can get it the other way around. But like, if you have information, that's, I think, the biggest changer. And then, because also, like, we couldn't even communicate. We couldn't even have found us. You couldn't broadcast on the internet. We couldn't all do that. So I think internet is still bigger than Bitcoin, but it's going to be almost equally big as the internet.
Let me take a parallel. Households were electrified around 1920, 1930. It's still fairly recent. Factories were electrified a little earlier than that. But it took 60 years from the point where half of the factories in a major city in Europe were electrified, as in they had picked out the steam power engines and put in the electric engines instead, just a drop-in replacement, until somebody realized that they no longer had the constraints they had been building for with steam power. They didn't need to run the entire factory or nothing of the factory, as was the case with steam power, when you had one big, huge coal-fired engine running every single moving part in the factory through pipes and pistons and cogs. With electric engines, you could run this little part on weekends. With electric engines, it turns out that you didn't need to build the factory as a huge cube by the water anymore. You could build it flat along far out in the suburbs in what we call industrial areas. So you could have a high-rise warehouse instead of trying to drive a forklift in stairs. And my point is that it took 60 years from the point where half the factories were electrified until somebody realized that you don't need to build factories by the water anymore. So people had been doing the same things for so long that they could only see the new innovation in terms of what it replaced. They could not see it on its own merits. So, looking into the future, what is Bitcoin more than money? What is Bitcoin? What does the internet do that is not just a replacement of radio waves and phone calls and letters? What will our grandchildren think of Bitcoin the way we think of electricity, not in terms of steam power?
I think, first of all, like, luckily for us, these innovations go faster and faster. So in your example, it took 60 years. When you take the internet from the first mail to now our usage, it took probably 30 years, 40 years. Don't fix me on this. I'm bad with numbers. But it took like significantly less time than the steaming engine. The same is with many other things like MP3. How long did it take from the launch of Napster until Spotify? It was probably 10, 15 years. When I started with Bitcoin, 5, 6 years ago, then in the beginning I thought, wow, this is a long way to go. Nowadays I look what we achieved when I look back, and I think like this is tremendously different to all what we had before. So I think the adoption of new technology is getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and that's our plus on one side. So I think now the people are realizing that Bitcoin is so fascinating, and that this actually brings some benefit if it's with like future retirement monies, if it's like fast payment, international, or micropayments. So they see the advantages. I see also the people from all the news changing their opinion about this entirely. So I see a bright future for all cryptocurrencies in like 5 to 6 years, and it's starting now already. So I think everything that we do in the future will be based on blockchain in some way.
Well, I would agree with that, but do people really change quicker? I mean, if you have a new technology, an observation is that it takes at least 10 years just to hit some sort of mainstream usability. Not hit the mainstream, but hit mainstream usability. This was the case with blogging, where people started using their homemade platforms. I don't know exactly what year. I think it was 1994, 1995, where the dawn of the web. And then 2004, 2005, Typepad hit, followed by WordPress. The streaming video was on cheap porn sites, or actually quite expensive porn sites by today's standards. And about 1994, 1995, same thing there. And 2006, YouTube hit. We talked about MP3s and Napster. I was on a precursor to what we would call the World Wide Web, called FidoNet, with bulletin board systems, where you would share text files and MIDI files between amateurs. In about 1989. Napster hit in 1999. So you can see this 10-year span being quite typical between a clumsy, technology-driven something that has a seed of something really revolutionary, and somebody just making it available to the masses, at which point it explodes. So Bitcoin was founded in 2009. We have 2 years until the 10-year limit. What's going to make it usable? What's going to take Bitcoin to the next billion people?
Yeah, we always looked for the killer app. Eventually, I hope Bitwala is one of those killer apps that makes Bitcoin adjustable to people and usable for people. Because, yeah, especially when it comes to money, we in Germany, like I can only say it from my grandmother or my grandfather or even my father, my mother, and my brother. When I talked to them about Bitcoin in the first place, I showed them a wallet and they're like, yeah, how this and what's this, and I don't understand, and they gave up. But I think the usability is one key factor of this. And again, information. So when I think you have a valid point when you say it's always taking 10 years, but if you look at Facebook, you brought up YouTube, and all of them, like YouTube took off like 5-6 years ago and was funded when? 2006? 2000?
Yeah, it was 2006.
So these technologies, they develop way faster. Facebook was not existing 15 years ago, but
it wasn't, no.
When you take a look at the top 10 companies in the American market at the moment, they were all not existing 15, 20 years ago. So you see, there is a tremendous shift in technology companies. And I consider Bitcoin more a competitor to this, and I'm referring to these companies. Look at Snapchat or others who come from nothing to 100 in a few years. Revolut was not existing 3 years ago, has now 500,000 users. And I think it's all linked to the internet. That's why I'm saying internet is bigger than Bitcoin, because it makes our information spreading so quickly that we can communicate way faster and more efficient. Like sometimes news from yesterday are outdated. I don't read newspapers anymore because I read the stuff from yesterday. That doesn't make sense for me anymore. And I think,
fair enough. So people might not change quicker, but they're exposed to ideas much quicker.
Exactly.
So the change is catalyzed.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I would say that.
Okay, awesome. So what is the next major big change? Well, you said that you're always looking for it. But can you see some interesting change that's happening, like in Europe and the US, and since you're in Africa, or since you're dealing with M-Pesa, in, say, the BRICS countries right now?
Yeah,
what's something that people in general don't detect?
Like the first thing is definitely financial inclusion. Like when you take a look, 2/3 of the world population doesn't have access to money. The good thing is all the companies, and also conservative companies.
Did you just say that 2/3 of the world's people do not have access to money?
Yes. Yeah,
that
they
is
have
an
money
amazing
to
number.
cash, right? But not to the financial system.
That is an amazing number.
Exactly. You can Google it. It's like more than half and 2/3
wow,
of the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue. You started going down linear.
Yeah, and the thing is that Bitcoin and these technologies are changing this entirely, because nobody can lock them, nobody can block them. There's no credibility checks or credit score checks or whatever. The people have to verify, maybe in the future in some way, to use services like Bitwala, but that's all they need to get into the financial system because it's not based on debt anymore. When you build everything on debt, you better make sure that the other person pays the debt, right? But as soon as everything is prepaid and everything is, you buy with cash, you get it on your bank account and use it then, and it's not something where you can go into debt. You don't need the credit stores and scorings anymore, and that's a big changer. So the first thing, then I think identifications and IDs all over the world, when like especially me, because I have to verify, or our company has to verify companies for people from Africa. Sometimes they write me, I'm living in this street on the right-hand side, blue house. And this is their address. And I'm like, I can't verify you like this. I'm sorry. But there you see, there's a tremendous,
and they can just leapfrog the entire system.
Exactly. And there I see the next change. And then also contracts, notaries, and this kind of stuff. When you take a look at, the shares stock exchange in Switzerland or in Germany, most of the stuff is still done by paper, right? They write sometimes the name of a name share. They actually cross the old name, write the new name, and put it in the basement. And these are things that are so outdated.
Yeah.
That
if you see the color draining from my face here, it's because I used to work in the European Parliament.
Yes.
I used to work in Brussels.
Yeah.
The Belgian here take all of the French attitude from the French without all of the efficiency that they actually have in Belgium.
Yeah.
That might have been impolite to say to my colleagues in Belgium and so on, but the European Parliament really is a special case. So no offense intended and none communicated. Like, you would hear things that you cannot possibly send us this. It does not have a stamp. Why do you need a stamp? It's an authentic document. You can verify it. It does not have a stamp.
Sounds really German, by the way.
It might be German as well. I have not lived long enough in Berlin to see this. That might be a good thing for my blood pressure, to be honest.
The funniest thing about this is, give me a potato and a knife and I give you this stamp.
I know, right? I know.
It's not something that is secure or protected in any way.
I know. I mean, Berlin and Germany are really good security-wise that way, that everything is compartmentalized. But you're right that as soon as the correct paper comes with a stamp, somebody tends to accept it somewhere.
Exactly.
But then again, this entire system needs to be leapfrogged, and Bitcoin is in a good position to do it. Maybe that's the conclusion we're drawing here.
Fully agree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.